Well, hello. Less than, or just over 12 hours since we were last on air. Hopefully you saw the review, as Daniel Williams and I reflected on, Daniel Williamson, I should say, reflected on the 1991 European Cup Winners' Cup triumph, 35 years ago yesterday. So please do check out that. Whenever you get the chance. There is a poll as well in our chat to see if you've already watched it, and if you are keen to watch it. It was aired on our channel yesterday. Also, an anniversary today is 99. So what is it now? 27 years ago to the day since we sealed the Premier League at home. I think it was the first time, maybe in the Fergie era, that we actually sealed the title at Old Trafford. Maybe the only time. Let me know in the comments below or in the chat if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, it was obviously the first leg of what was going to become an unforgettable treble. There is going to be a treble, and more specifically, a Champions League winning memorial podcast, remembering fantastic moments culminating in the Camp Nou against Bayern. That'll be airing in the next, couple of weeks. I'm going to do an interview with Rob Smythe, the Guardian journalist, and we're going to chat about that next week. And then that'll be aired about a week later on the anniversary, which of course will also be 27 years. I digress because there's a lot to get into regarding the present and regarding Michael Carrick's pretty much confirmation as Manchester United's new coach. Journalists left, right, and centre, those in the know, those that have good relations with the club, let's say, are all aligned. Although now Simon Stone from the BBC is also breaking it. So Jim Radcliffe, the Glazer family. I'm going to share this tweet with you. Well, let me get the right screen share. What screen share do we want? Do we want that one? No. Yeah, we want this one. So Jim Radcliffe, the Glazers family, and Man United executives all aligned around the future direction of the club. I mean, it's a bit vague, but we know what that means. I've seen Michael Carrick's press conference. That's on my screen right in front of me. He's in very, very good mood. And so, yeah, that also tells you enough. And basically, he was asked a couple of questions about it, and he said the future is very clear. So, and smiled. So I think we know what that means. I do not want Sir Jim Radcliffe anywhere near making these kind of decisions, but sadly it seems as though he still is. Every time I see a headline regarding this, it's always, Radcliffe is signing the deal off. He's the one who's making, the ultimate decision or is having a role to play. He should not, given his lack of awareness and lack of understanding of the sport, be anywhere near making these kind of decisions any more than the Glazers or Ed Woodward should have been or were. Anyway, nevertheless, it really came down to three. It's very interesting that this decision came out at the very least just hours after Carlo Ancelotti confirmed that he was going to be staying on as Brazil coach. I do think that as well as the complications of these managers participating at the World Cup, I also think their commitments beyond the World Cup in the form of Ancelotti, but also Luis Enrique. Sorry, not Luis Enrique. Tuchel at England. I think that probably closed the door on those two, despite suggestions otherwise that they could still be persuaded to renegade on that contract. Then the other one was Nagelsmann. I understand why there would be reservations, bearing in mind how things panned out for him at Bayern in the past. I don't think he's anywhere near the guarantee of success. In fact, he's certainly no more guarantee of success than Michael Carrick, and nowhere near the levels of guarantees of success that potentially Ancelotti and also Luis Enrique, who also couldn't be prized, I'm pretty sure, from Paris Saint-Germain as he builds a legacy in the French capital. So that then leaves Michael Carrick, Iraola, who we know is leaving Aston Villa. Leaving Bournemouth. And the reason I'm thinking of Aston Villa, of course, after their win last night over Liverpool, Unai Emery. Perhaps Unai Emery could not be prized from Aston Villa, which tells you where Villa are right now and where United have fallen over the last 13 years. Sip of coffee just to swallow that information. Maybe, or maybe they didn't try. I don't know. Sadly, I have very little trust in those that make these decisions at Man United. So, yeah, maybe they didn't try. Maybe they didn't think it was the right thing. I think Iraola would have been a fantastic fit for Manchester United. I understand those that think it's a bit of a jump, but that's where United are. We are a club that are qualifying for the Champions League sometimes and sometimes not. At the moment, we are not a club that is challenging for the title or the Champions League itself. So I do think that we probably are the next step. I saw people saying, "Oh, the next step is Dortmund Dortmund or Milan or one of the big clubs elsewhere across Europe." That's also kind of where United are at. We are on the rung below, whether we like it or not, the clubs that are regularly competing and winning their leagues and Champions Leagues. You know, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern, Real Madrid, Barcelona, etc. Anyway, Carrick is the choice, and we move on. You can tell I have reservations, and I know that those who have wonderful relations with Jim Radcliffe and Ineos et al., and of course I'm thinking of Omar Barada and Wilcox as firm employees and trusted henchmen of Sir Jim Radcliffe's. Those that have close relations with them have definitely played the PR game and are saying and tempering expectations. I heard one so-called journalist saying, "Oh yes, but clubs lose 5 games, or clubs do often go, 5 games without a win, or lose 5 games in a row." Actually, big clubs don't, and I don't think it's happened to United this season, for example. And we are third. We're not even top 2, which is where we obviously want to be top 1. But what the so-called journalists do, who certainly work behalf of the club in that respect, they know that they get their sources, they get their information. So what they do is they temper expectations, they toe the line. They will also say, "Oh, but I criticize the club from time to time. I stand up and I say, oh, well, the club get things wrong." It's a fantastic way of basically saying, I am being impartial and I'm delivering both positive and negative news. What you're doing is the club get things wrong. Of course they do. Not every transfer works out, but we've got the right people. So that's the message that follows the buck, right? And everyone walks away going, "Oh yeah, well, he's balanced." But no, you're playing the PR game and you're doing a disservice both to the fans and the club itself. Okay, rant over in terms of the way the club is being covered at the moment, which does upset me. But regarding the decision I honestly, I said it a few weeks ago and I said it again, as long as we don't, and I mentioned Iraola, Emery, and Enrique, as well as Michael Carrick, because of the results that Carrick got. That's the reason he deserves the job and gets the job. The performances, honestly, you can probably count on one hand how many performances, and normally performances catch up with you. We're fortunate in that the rest of the league have been messing around and having terrible seasons. Look at the way Liverpool have fallen off a cliff. Chelsea too. We've been fortunate in that respect. We've also been fortunate in that the situation with 5 clubs qualifying for the Champions League and possibly even 6 with the way Villa may well end up winning the Europa League. And the performances on the pitch, the results on the pitch have been a little bit fortunate compared to the performances. I think there's no doubt about it. And of course, we have been out of the cup competitions very early on, so we've played very few league games. So we've always been able to focus 100% on those, etc., etc. We're going to be losing Casemiro. Casemiro, by the way, coming to the team news, as Carrick confirmed in his press conference, is going to be available. So he is going to be playing his last home match, and he is going to be a huge, huge loss. So at the moment, if we are third best club in the country, as the league says, we've been the third best team in the Premier League anyway. You lose Casemiro, you're dropping, right? And I think the thing we're going to miss most is the goal. So I've heard about Tchouaméni from Real Madrid, but he doesn't bring you goals that Casemiro does. I've heard Tonali, of course, mentioned from Newcastle, who does bring you the goals, but he doesn't bring you the presence. He doesn't bring you the tactical acumen, and doesn't bring you the sitting ability as well that Casemiro has. So huge loss. So we're going to be weaker next season immediately for two reasons in terms of our Premier League standing. One, we're going to hopefully play more games. In fact, we're definitely going to play more games because we're in the Champions League. And two, we're losing Casemiro. So immediately we've got to play catch up. I think two midfielders, and if they both work out, could just about bring us back to where we are now. Then we kick on. But we've got to get 3-4 players in at least this summer, and they've all got to be on the money. Now, I believe the strategy of Ineos in the transfer market is to play things cautiously. It's why they keep going for Premier League. They know that people like Mbeumo and Cunha, etc., they're going to probably be okay. They're going to be all right. They're not going to have to worry about resettling them in terms of the country, etc., albeit that I know they're not British, but they were players that from the Premier League. That's why they keep... I remember when we were looking at Ten Hag and a couple of other people from the Premier League, and maybe Mourinho was another one, I think, when we were employing Ten Hag, and I was like, you know what? Ten Hag is the risk. David De Gea, I remember when he signed for the club as well. This is the risk. We can take it easy and just go for whoever. You know, we could have pursued with Lindegaard, for example, the backup to De Gea, but it's like, listen, we have to be taking risks. Ferguson said it himself. This is in the fabric of the club. We have to take risks. But Ineos are risk averse because they're worried about their reputation, having taken a risk on on Amorim in the past, for example. They don't want to do it again. So that's why they've gone for Carrick. And that's why they keep talking about Premier League proven, etc., etc. Well, Michael Carrick isn't Premier League proven. Oh, and by the way, Michael Carrick, whether you agree or disagree with him staying on as coach, and honestly, I'm sitting on the fence because I don't know. Nobody knows, but I really have no idea. Him being up for, as Stan Collymore pointed out rightly on Twitter. Now, of course, Stan is biased, Villa fan, Villa ex-pro, but he's 100% right in that no way should Michael Carrick, after 15 games, be up for manager of the year, as he has been touted for. And Emery has been overlooked. I'm going to see if I can find this Collymore tweet for you and share it with you on the screen, because yeah, it's fair. Here we go, manager of the season. Is that where we're at? Are we going to go here? Yeah, something like that. Okay, here we go. Manager of the season. Managed 15 games at Man United. Spent another trillion. Come on. Okay, trillion's a little, yeah. Managed 3 seasons at Villa, 3 semi-finals. Anyway, I hope he tells them. Yeah. So, yeah, there's some colourful language in there too. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just listen to Carrick again in his press conference. So, yeah. Just got a message here from Jake. I'm live now. Okay, I digress. Where were we at in terms of everything? Yeah, so yeah, that's that. Oh, some news that broke in the last few hours is the health of Matthias de Ligt, and he has gone under the knife for an operation, which is a little concerning, a little surprising. I mean, he's been out since December. It's now taken 6 months to diagnose that he requires an operation. That is, I understand that they may go, look, we need to look at the bigger picture, and maybe he doesn't need to go under the knife, maybe he does. But for the club and the medical experts to ponder this for 6 months, or not even be aware of the fact that he needs to go under the knife, is odd. And I am concerned. It's a back issue. I'm concerned for the long-term future of de Ligt, given how weird this absence has been. And now this is now just gone weirder in a way. He's obviously going to be out of the World Cup with that news, but I think that was always likely, and he was unlikely to play this season. But what on earth has been going on regarding Matthias de Ligt and his health? Now, other team news. So de Ligt obviously out, but we kind of knew that. Casemiro is fit and raring to go for what will be his last ever match at Old Trafford. Going to be a big miss, as we've already highlighted. And Sesko. Sesko is doubtful, let's say, and I'm basing that on the words of Michael Carrick. I'm not sure if he's... Just going to see if this is him talking about Sesko now. No, that's Laurie Whitwell. Here we go.
Ben's not as straight.
Is that another athletic journalist there?
We have that anyway, so and certainly for us to thank the fans, and for me to thank the fans for that.
This is Michael Carrick talking.
Michael, obviously you mentioned about Casemiro being okay. Is Benjamin Sesko all right?
Yeah, I think it is. Just like a bunch of athletic journalists.
Ben's not as straightforward.
Sesko's not as straightforward regarding his health compared to Casemiro.
He's still not 100%.
It's not 100%.
The problem I had, so,
and no need to take a risk. Hi, Jake.
Yeah, apart from that, we're all right.
Okay, so it just seems like Sesko and obviously long-term de Ligt. Be interesting to hear what you think about de Ligt, Jake, because I think that's shocking that 6 months injured and now they decide to operate. But in terms of sort of more short-term absences, like Casemiro being absent last week, no comment on Ugarte, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Really the bigger question is, how strong do we go? Do we go 100%? Do we go 95, which is what I'm thinking? I'm going to change this to 4-3-3. I know that I've seen some tactical analysis suggesting we've been playing 4-4-2 on occasion under Carrick, and that Bruno's been more like a number 10, just behind a Sesko, for example, and that's fair. 4-2-3-1, of course, is also the thing. Interesting to hear what Casemiro said about Mainu in saying that he's just not a 6. Yeah, but honestly, regarding de Ligt and delaying and yeah, well, then his priorities are clearly anything but Manchester United. The decision to go under the knife, delaying it for that reason, which might be the case, that is a shock and really should be very concerning. And also the medical staff. What are they doing? What have they been saying? Have they been going, yeah, okay, let's try and get you fit for the World Cup? Who are you working for, Manchester United medical staff? And I do fear for his long-term future now. They say hopefully he'll feature at some point early on next season. So in other words, he won't be fit for the first day of the season. Exactly. He should have... I understand that the decision to go under the knife might not have been taken in the first few weeks. Going, look, let's see how this settles down. Hopefully we don't need to go under the knife. Hopefully you can play again this season. But by January or February, when he'd already been absent for 1 or 2 months, it should have then been clear that he's got to go. Yeah, we do. Well, I mean, you're looking at Martinez and de Ligt, but I don't think we have this notion that we're going to go into the transfer market and just start buying centre halves as well. Well, if we have a £500 million war chest, fine. But we keep being told by the so-called journalists that are working as PR for Ineos that, we don't have that kind of money. By the way, those same PR people also say, I heard one say once saying, listen, fans, you shouldn't be demanding X, Y, and Z because, we pay their wages. The club pays their wages. And maybe you should tell the players to reduce their wage demands, which is just the perfect line for Ineos. That drove me nuts for what is ultimately a working class sport and a largely working class fan base. Of course, what you do is you get them to turn on the players rather than the owners. Yeah, classic spin. Anyway, we just don't have the money for centre halves anyway, and I don't think we need them. And regarding the health of Maguire, the fitness, I should say, of Maguire, I'm bringing some tennis terminology there, really. Regarding the fitness of Maguire, yeah, he's also a bit injury prone, but it's his age, and he's not as bad as his injury situation isn't as bad as obviously De Ligt and Martinez. But Martinez, how many world-class players do Man United have? Martinez is world-class. Bruno Fernandez is world-class. There were one or two other maybes or could-bes or were. I think Luke Shaw was world-class at his peak. Rarely, unfortunately, we saw that peak in terms of his fitness. Senna Lamens could be world-class. Yes. Cunha maybe, but not yet. Mainu could be. But right now, we have two world-class players. And despite his track record, which is basically being absent for half the time at United, I don't think you can afford to sell Martinez. He's fit right now. And yeah. Okay, coming to the starting, my preferred, this is not my predicted, this is my preferred. I think predicting is certainly in the years under Ferguson would just be impossible. It's a little easier probably now. But the main question is how big do you go? I prefer to go 90 to 95% big. If we're going to introduce one player, sure, one. But that's it. Don't flood it like a Coca-Cola Cup team, under Ferguson in his pomp. So Senna Lamens starts in goal. I think for the last game, by the way, which is away from home, of course, against Brighton. Oh, interesting, of course, regarding this is the Forest are safe. That's huge. Yeah. I if we really want to go with an experimental lineup, I'm thinking about last day of the season under Ferguson. Normally, we were experimenting with the lineup because we had a huge assignment a week or so later, like 2007 at home at West Ham. It wasn't experimental. We had such a good squad in those days that it wasn't anything else. But of course, a week later with the FA Cup final, albeit we'd won, we'd go on to lose. 2009 was similar as well against Wolves at home. Wolves away, I think it was. And I remember, I think Fletcher played and he scored, but of course we had the Champions League final. I'm going to say 10 days later or 3 days later, one of the two. Interestingly, in 2011, we had a similar scenario, but Ferguson decided to go strong in that final game at home to Blackpool. Not 100% strong, but pretty strong because he wanted to just mix things up because he'd seen how we were off in 2009. So he's like, 2011, I'm going to go for a much stronger team and they could be more battle ready for the final hit. Didn't make any difference, of course. Dalot has to start at right back just because of how mediocre Mazraoui was last week. I've got a video out regarding my hopes and dreams in terms of players staying and leaving the club. It's not about players coming into the club, but I've done a video about, I think it was about a week ago or something like that, maybe a bit less, regarding players that I think should come and go. Here we go. Look, I'm just going to share it with you on the screen right now. It's on the left-hand side there. These are players that I've given my judgment on, and some might surprise you. I think I'll be on the minority regarding some of them, but anyway. Kind of, yeah, kind of. The thing that Anderson will tick is the thing that we need to tick in terms of the absence of Casemiro, which is also replacing the goals. Because this is the problem with Tchouaméni and many of the other holding midfielders. You look at their scoring record and it's like one a season. And you're like, oh, dear. And sure, if they're the best, if that's Claude Makelele, no problem. You are the difference between winning a Champions League and not, as Zinedine Zidane pointed out. I remember in 03-04 when they had the summer before when they bought Beckham and sold Makelele. And Zinedine Zidane said, we've been running on fumes towards the end of that season. I think they got beaten by Monaco maybe in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. I think they were up in that match and Monaco were a little bit down. And one of the players said to Zidane, you know, was a bit down. We're running on fumes. He was like, we miss Makelele. We can't do this with David Beckham holding midfield. Anyway, great if we get Anderson, of course, but if they're talking 100 million plus, I don't think we can do that. Not if we want to bring in 3 midfielders for sure. I'm hoping we sell Ugarte, as you'll see from that video that I'm highlighting on the screen. Okay, back to the team for tomorrow. Yeah, Dallo has to start. I'm going to go pretty strong. It's our last home game of the season. We're not saving players for an FA Cup or a Champions League final, that is for sure. If you weren't aware of that, then I don't know what you're doing tuning into this show, but welcome aboard anyway. Left back, I'm going to go Luke Shaw as well. Started every single game this season. I think he'll be disappointed if he doesn't start against Brighton next week. Now, centre-half. Maguire is a right-sided centre-half, and this is regarding basically the players that fit. Lenny Yoro, he could play against Brighton maybe next week, but not for this match. We need to be serious for now. So Maguire starts as the right-sided man. I mean, this right-sided, left-sided thing, it does matter. It's not, but it's not the be-all and end-all. You know, if we have 2 left-sided, left-footed mid centre-halves, certainly for a one-off match, but even beyond that, it's not the end of the world. Vidic and Ferdinand used to switch. In fact, they did switch, partly because the relationship between Ferdinand and Evra, I think, was Ferguson's reasoning for that. But yeah, it's a bit more of a modern thing. And I think it is important to have a left and a right. But anyway, so that then means if we are going to go with the left and the right, at least for this game, who do you play as your left-footed, left-sided centre-half? It then comes down to Martinez or Heaven. Or Heaven. I'm going to go with Martinez for this one. Heaven, you can start next week. I'd even probably say that to him, Ferguson-esque. Midfield, we're going to go strong as well. Usual midfield trio. Casemiro, absolute dead cert to start. He's fit. It's his last ever home match for Man United. He'll get the send-off he deserves. I'm not sure he'll play against Brighton. Maybe he'll be on the bench against Brighton and get a nice cameo there. But this is his last match. You're starting, my friend, as you deserve to, because you've been one of our best players this season. In fact, when I get this team up, I'm actually going to maybe go to you how we rate their seasons, because this is close to our first 11, which is also fortunate because of how we've been absent from the cup competitions. Kobbie Mainoo, absolutely, and of course Bruno Fernandez. Bruno chasing this this record. Yeah, I'm going to come to that at the end, Jake. I'm going to come to this question at the end. Bruno, of course, going for the assist record. It's nice. And same with the footballer. The football of the year, which is also done by the writers, by the way, so that brings it down a notch or two. So there's probably a lot of Man United fans in the press pack. There you go. That's fine. I'm fine. Of course, I would endorse Bruno for being player of the year because I think he has been the best player. I think Arsenal have had some good performers, but they've not really had an outstanding performer. I think Declan Rice has been decent. He's not been world class. He's not been, he's not been Makelele, Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, and Giggs rolled into one, as some people might have you believe. And let's see how Damien Rice, he was a singer. Let's see how Declan Rice, maybe we should play Damien Rice in midfield for England. Let's see how Declan Rice does this summer at the World Cup, because I've been very underwhelmed by his big performances in England matches. Anyway, regarding the record, it'd be nice if he gets it, but I couldn't really care. If you said to me, we are going to get 4 points in the next 2 games, but Bruno's going to get the assist record, or we're going to get 6 points in the next 2 games, and 2 games that don't really matter because third is tied up now. I think third is tied up now after Liverpool lost yesterday. Not mathematically, but we've got 9 goals advantage over Aston Villa. So we'd have to lose our next 2 games. Let's say we lose the next 2 games by, just say 1-0, just to make my maths easier. That brings our goal difference down by 2. So we go to 13, and they'd have to win by 7 on the last day. And also, I think Villa will be taking it easy in terms of their lineup at the very least for their last match of the season. Yeah, because for them, it's 4th and 5th, right, on the table. They would like to get 4th, but most importantly, they don't get any injuries or any issues before the Europa League final. When is the Europa League final? Am I getting my dates muddled up? It's coming up on Wednesday. Okay, so they will play their final Premier League match after that. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, but then there'll also be the hangover from that, whether they win, lose, or whatever in that final against Freiburg in Istanbul. What a trip that is, by the way. So that does make a difference as well, because it's not like they're nipping over to Paris or somewhere in Germany or even Spain. But that's an extra few hours on the plane and takes a bit more out of you getting to Istanbul. Good job they played last night. That gives them an extra couple of days. It won't be, hopefully, from their perspective, that was designed. Anyway, I digress. The top 5, I think, despite some optimism regarding Liverpool's demise, a huge, crazy turn of events would have to happen for Liverpool not to finish in the top 5. Bournemouth have got to play Man City. Do you really think Bournemouth are winning both their last 2 games and Liverpool are losing their last one against Brentford? I think it is, isn't it, on the last day as well? But it's at home. I'm not sure that turn of events is going to happen. And then they'd have to lose as well. And Brighton would have to win both their games, one of which, of course, against United, for them not to finish 5th. So I do think it's unlikely that Arsenal... And even if they finish 6th, by the way, they've still got the insurance of Villa's probable. I think it's a 70-30 chance that Villa have a win in Europa League, especially with Emery in charge. I've already done my little managerial thoughts, Jake. That was right at the beginning of this episode. So do dip into that. Okay, let's go back to my team. I think if we are going to experiment with one player and one situation, it would be in the attacking 3. We know that Sesko is probably absent. I don't think it's worth taking a risk on him anyway. I would even be saying to him, you know what, rest up and get ready for next season. Maybe play on, maybe be on the bench either this weekend or next weekend. But yeah. So then the question is, we've then got Cunha, Ahmad, Dorgu, Umbumo. Have I said Umbumo? Those are kind of like the 4 options, aren't they? None of which really are number 9s. Cunha and Umbumo have certainly fulfilled that role on occasion this season. Cunha is much more comfortable off the left. I think he does start. And then, of course, the other option as well, when it comes to the forward positions, is also Lacey. Xerxes, no, thank you. Maybe we can play with Brighton. We'll see how I'm feeling about that match when it comes. But for now, no. Xerxes, you can be on the bench. Yes, it might be your last appearance at United, but it's not like you're leaving in a blaze of glory, Casemiro-esque. Do I play Ahmad as well? So the problem is Ahmad and Umbumo in particular are so out of form. So, but do you play, if you're going to play Lacey, and I am tempted to, do you play him off the right or do you play him up front? I think you play him off the right. Anyway, I'm going to go with, Umbumo as the number 9. If that doesn't quite work, we can always switch him with Cunha, and then we can also even switch him with Lacey, perhaps. But I'm going to go with Lacey. He's bided his time. I felt really bad for him when he got a red card against Brighton in the FA Cup. You could see he meant it. Rumours of Mbuma being sold. Any weight to it? And what is your opinion on it too? Where have you heard that? Listen, I'm no more in the know than you are, Jake. But where did I'm interested to hear where you heard it from. My concern, or if you like, or my doubt, first of all, with that would be the fact that Ineos would have to swallow something there. But I do think in the second half of the season, he's been very underwhelming. I even think in the first half, goals are important. Of course they are. Of course they are. But goals that you and I wouldn't be able to score is what really, strikes me. I remember talking about that Mark Hughes goal yesterday, the one from 35 years ago. Almost no one on the pitch, never mind, and almost no one on the planet could have scored that goal that he scored against Barcelona that night. Some of the goals that Mbeumo scored, You got to be there, I know. But think about Wolves away. Even the one against Brighton at home, he just puts his foot through it. We're up 3-2 as well. It's not the most pressurized of goals. Yes, we were under the cosh a bit. Haven't been 3-0 up and then 3-2. Yeah, I'd keep both Ahmad and Mbumo because I think they deserve at least another 12 months. But yeah, it's no doubt about it. But I said that from the beginning of the season. Mbumo's debut as well raised a few little concerns for me because everyone was talking about how well we played against Arsenal, how well Mbumo and the new signings had played. I was like, I don't know. Mbumo seemed to be like the weight of the shirt felt something on him. It felt like, you remember him snatching at a couple of chances. He then starts getting in amongst the goals in the early matches. They just weren't. And the goal he scores against Arsenal as well is another that falls into the professional footballers should be, whether you're Championship, League One, Premier League level, Championship footballers, let's go for, or even someone in the lower half of the Premier League, should be scoring that goal against Arsenal that Mbumo scored, for example. Should be scoring the goal against Wolves away. If you remember that one under Amorim in November, I think it was. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these games from this season. Some of them you won't want to remember, like Grimsby, for example. Yeah. Sesko, to be fair, does score, like the one at West Ham. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah. Did he score against Sunderland and Mbumo? No, mate, Mount got the goal. Of course, Sesko got one there as well, yeah. All right, I said I'd have a thought or two about United's players and this season and who's deserved to, who's been great, who hasn't. Best 5 players. Let's go with that. Who is absent from this team who should also be sort of at least spoken about? Well, Sesko, De Ligt, Dorgu. Some people might play Dorgu on Sunday. I understand it. But I think Forest at home, do you play a sort of more defensively minded forward player? He's also not really looked great since he came on. People say, look, he's still easing himself back. Fine. Ease yourself back into the team. That's great. We're in a fortunate position that we've got a few months for you to do that. Anyway, Sesko, De Ligt, Dorgu. Anyone else needs to get a mention in terms of not players of this season, but just basically people I'm missing from the conversation. Obviously not Lenny Yoro. Oof. Not Altay Bayındır. Who can remember his debut? Not debut, but his first match this season. But of course, people are saying rightly that maybe that goal should have been chalked off. I remember thinking at the time that it would be light to chalk it off, but given what we saw, what happened at the London Stadium last Sunday in that match with Arsenal, then yeah. Anybody else? Xerxes, of course not. Mazraoui, definitely not. I'm going to just add Heaven. I'm just looking at the lineup for tomorrow. Get David May in the lineup. Yeah, especially the David May who celebrates the trophy. Going to be doing a Champions League final remembering show with Rob Smythe from The Guardian. Going to be recording that next week, but it'll come out on the anniversary of the 99 Champions League final. So keep an eye out for that. Tom Heaton, by the way, got a mention by Casemiro in an interview with Rio Ferdinand the other day, saying what an important person he is for the squad and the morale. Yeah, these people do matter, cheerleaders and all the rest of it. But he doesn't. Tom, you're not getting the sort of a mention, an honourable mention in the Players of the Year conversation. So, if we consider, right, the 11 you can see on the screen, and then throw in these 4 players, which makes it 15 contenders for the best. Lacey, bless him, he's probably not in that conversation, but I'm just using this for my memory as much as anything else. Who is in the conversation, though, for our best players this season? Who's in the conversation? At least I want to put in my mind as a possibility. Lamans 100% is in that conversation. In fact, I'm almost certain he will be in the first 5. Dalot, I think, despite his dreadful finishing, got a nice goal at West Ham at home. I was at that match, actually, at Old Trafford. He's actually had a good season. He's had a good season. Luke Shaw started every single Premier League match. Jake, by the way, I don't know if you've heard, but Michael Carrick is up for Premier League Manager of the Season, which is just weird. Even if you're the biggest Michael Carrick fan and thinks he deserves to be the manager and all the rest of it. And as I said in my thoughts, I'm on the fence. I just don't know. I've got it wrong and I've got it right over the last 11 years. I got it right more often than Ed Woodward did, but that's not difficult. I think, Yuki, my dog, could have got it more often right than Ed Woodward. But if I think back, David Moyes, I think we all knew deep down he wasn't the right choice. We hoped it, get behind your new manager. But Ferguson was rushing around trying to recruit Guardiola and Ancelotti and to some extent Mourinho, although there was some reservations, I believe, from Bobby Charlton regarding Jose. But it was also because he couldn't get anyone in, persuade anyone. So then it was like, I've chosen Moyes. Yeah, well, I asked Jennifer Aniston out on a date. I asked Taylor Swift out on a date. But they both said no, so I've gone for Shirley down the pub. Yeah, Shirley down the pub, that was my choice. Yeah, that was my choice all along. Anyway. So, yeah. So the United contenders. I'm having, if we're talking about 5 players, we're not talking about a 5-a-side lineup either. I could have 2 goalkeepers if I wanted on one, but 5 players. Lammers is in the conversation 100%. I think Dalot could be in the conversation. I think Shaw could be in the conversation. Martinez is not really let us. I think he's been sorely missed when he hasn't played, albeit not those 3 games he was suspended for. The United Strand guy, the guy with the crazy hair, he must have been looking at that Sunderland match in particular, probably even more than some of the other ones, because that was it for him for the season, right? Because he wants 5 wins in a row. We can't do that now. I think he will carry over if we win these 2 games into the beginning of next season, but he's going to have to go the whole summer now with that hair. Okay. But I'm going to keep Maguire and Martinez in the conversation. Casemiro, definitely. Mainu is a difficult one because he didn't play for half of it. Yes, he stays in the conversation for now. But he might lose out, not because of his performances in the second half, but he just didn't play in the first half. And if you're going to talk about best players this season, I think that might well cost him. Umbumo, no. Lacey, of course, barely played, so no. But Umbumo, no, because as I said, I don't think he's been anywhere that close to our best 5 players this season. Bruno, of course, probably almost certainly number 1. Casemiro, Cunha. So then we've got it down to, and then who else was it on the screen I had? Sesko, De Ligt. Well, De Ligt obviously not because he's missed half the season. Dorgu basically played well for about 6 weeks, either side of Amarin getting fired, but that's it. That's not enough. Heaven, I'm very pleasantly surprised. I saw Heaven play against West Ham in a match when he got drafted in. I think that was the match when De Ligt, we realised, wasn't going to be playing. It was a surprise. Oh, no De Ligt, I remember. As I was queuing up to walk into Old Trafford that night, I was, oh, no De Ligt. Little did I know then we wouldn't be seeing him for the rest of the season. He was very, very good in the first half of the season, Jake, but I've still seen Milk turn quicker than De Ligt, particularly the goal that was, I think it was the 2-1 goal that put Spurs ahead. Yeah, Heaven has impressed me. He's definitely, Yoro is in terms of just everyone, let's imagine everyone's fit. Yoro is actually the last option of the, how many is it, 5 or 6? So this would be my pecking order of centre halves. Right now, just right now, if everyone's fit. First, Martinez. Second, De Ligt. Third, Maguire. Fourth, Heaven. Fifth, Yoro. Is that the 5? Am I missing anyone? I've got Heaven at 4th, Maguire at 3rd. You're putting Martinez at 3rd. My goodness me, you and I just couldn't disagree more. I think he's he's one of our world-class players. But I think that's the 5 centre halves on our books, right? Just going to check. I'm having a brain fail here, maybe. And I'm missing and I mean like a 100% centre half, not a Mazraoui or a Luke Shaw who can fill in there. And also, I'm not thinking like Friedrichsen or anything like that. Yeah. By the way, the United website, it's funny how they put players on loan in black and white. It's almost like they passed away. Poor Harry Amas. That's wild. There's another one. You could just put them, like, put a stamp at the top saying on loan. Diego Leon. What's going on there? Oh, Malacia. Oof. If everyone's fit, I'm quite happy with that 5, by the way. Yoro, I think, is 12 months away from being sold. I think Yoro, Umbumo, and Ahmad next season is a litmus test for those 3 players. You deliver or you don't. You deliver, you stay, you don't, you're gone. It really is make or break. Because those guys have also been at the club long enough to prove themselves. You know, Yoro's been at the club 2 years, that'd be his 3rd season. And we're looking at 2 bad seasons where you could probably count the number of good performances on one hand from Yoro, for example. Umbumo possibly 2. And the reason why Umbumo, you might go, he's only been at the club 1 year, whereas those others been there 2 or 3 years. Yeah, but with Umbumo, there's the age and experience. So Yoro gets a bit of a more time because of his youth, whereas Umbumo is super established. So come on, mate. We need a big season from you. Anyway, I digress. I want to get my 5 top players this season. So if it was like quarterfinal, semi-final, still qualifying, who's still in the conversations? Heaven has been great, and I had my doubts about him, but I tell you what, I'm starting to see the centre half that we bought and the potential we saw. He's not in our player of the season conversation in terms of the top 5 because he just hasn't played often enough, but he's actually rarely let us down. I was a bit disappointed with him at Bournemouth at home in terms of not closing down. I think it was Samano for probably the 1-1 equaliser. So many goals in that match is difficult to keep up. But we drew home and away against Bournemouth, by the way. I keep saying, by the way, I don't know why. Those 2 performances were 2 of our best performances this season. They were away, even though it's one of the few games that Carrick didn't win. I actually think there's an argument to suggest that Bournemouth away performance was our 3rd best under Carrick. That night, I thought we were really, really good. And I really do take stock in performances because eventually they catch up with you. One way or the other. You know, either you're performing incredibly well, but you're not quite getting the results, or you're getting the results. I'm thinking about Aston Villa at the beginning of the season when they were in the Championship race or the Premier League title race. But the results were like, although they were sensational at home to Arsenal, I remember. Right, my 5 players. So Lamans is obviously in the conversation. I think Lamans and Bruno are just obviously 2 of the 5, right? So those are 2 of the 5. And then the other contenders, I don't think Sesko is, but he's just in the conversation for now, Sesko. But I do think he'll end up getting eliminated. He's just been too inconsistent. Too many sort of that first 3 or 4 months, you know, too many absent performances. The first 2 goals he scored, the one at Sunderland, I talked about goals you can score. You know, the one against Brentford was kind of the goal that you see on a park every weekend. You know, he has 3 or 4 stabs at it and he's 2 yards out from goal and just smashes it. Fine. It's important. Got us back to 2-1, gave us a chance of ultimately getting the result. That Bruno, of course, missing that penalty. But what a bad day that was. Oof. Anyway, Sesko is in the conversation for now, but I am thinking he's going to be out of it soon. Casemiro. Going to keep Mainu in the conversation for now, but I do think his absences from the first half of the season. Shaw, Martinez, Maguire, and Dalot. Shaw, Martinez, Maguire, and Dalot. So this is, I need to perm. This is my, oh, well, I've missed Cunha. Sorry, Cunha. You're also in the conversation. So I need to get 3 from Sesko, Casemiro, Mainu, Shaw, Martinez, Maguire, Dalot, Cunha. Oof, that's tough. Yeah, Sesko's out. Mainu's out, just hasn't played enough. And he has had a really good second half of the season, but there were a couple of performances under Carrick when so Sesko and Mainu are out. That leaves Maguire hasn't played enough either, missed a lot, and I don't think he's been quite as I would stick Harry in there, would you? Okay, fair. He's in my conversation, so I've now got to get 3 from Cunha, Casemiro, Shaw, Martinez, Dalot. I've got to get 3 from these. Yeah, I'm going to also look at appearances this season. Let's just go with Premier League appearances because I couldn't give a flying proverbial if they played against Brighton in the Cup or in fact, if they played against Brighton or Grimsby and I'm not counting it, then you should be grateful. Premier League appearances, 25, 26 Man United. Because also I don't want to necessarily rule out, let's say I'm saying no to Mainu because I don't think he's played, but then I look at the stats and he's played 1 game less than Dalot, for example. I don't think that will be the case, but I do want to check. So Dalot, this is actually this is just the league. Yeah, he started 28 times. Let's go with starts as well. 28 times Dalot, Maguire 17, Martinez 11. Wow, I didn't realize it was that few. I guess I've got to drop Martinez. Maybe my rose-tinted glasses regarding him and his performances at Old Trafford then. He also started the match against Brighton in the Cup as well. So, yeah. Sorry, Martinez. You haven't played enough. You have got to go. Mainu. What's Mainu's squad number? It's something obscure, right? We scored 3 own goals this season. Can't be Mainu's got an own goal this season. Oh, he's number 37 and he started 14 times. And he looks like he's come off the bench 12 times, which is a lot more than I thought. Can't be Mainu who scored an own goal. Really? No. He got a goal. Where are these own goals coming from? 3. We've scored 3 own goals. Or we've conceded. I don't know whether that's conceded or gained. Anyway, whatever. I digress. Martinez and Mainu are gone from our top 5 list. So, and how many times? And I know you were like Maguire. I want to see how many times. I mean, that goal at Anfield propels him a little bit, right? But I'm going to put Maguire ahead of Dalot, even though Dalot played 11 more times or started 11 more times in the Premier League. That goal that Maguire scores, at Anfield is worth so much that at least it keeps him in the conversation for now. But I don't think Shaw has been that bad. Yes, it's not the same marauding Shaw that we saw. In his pomp. So who have I got? I've got Shaw, Cunha, Maguire. I've said no to Dalot because I've got Maguire ahead of you. I've said no to Martinez. Said no to... we've got Casemiro, of course. So I now have to get 3 from these 4. Jake, you might have already written your 5, but write your 5. Now, I know Lamans and Bruno are in there, so I need the 3, really, if you want to save your typing. Which 3 of these 4, which one of these misses out on our best 5 players this season? I've got Shaw. So you're going to go with Maguire. So Shaw misses out for you. But starting every game, and I think he has been great. I'm telling you, I might surprise you. I might surprise you by the player I'm going to leave out because I think I have decided. I think I've decided who I'm leaving out. And I like him, and he has had a good season. He's had a good season, not had a great season, he's had a good season. I'm happy with him. I'm more than happy for him to start at the beginning of August. But yeah, you got it right, Jake. I'm leaving Cunha off. I'm leaving Cunha out. He's had a good season. How many goals has he scored? Like, I think he's had a good first season at the club. He's a starter. I'm not putting him under the microscope in terms. He scored 9 goals in, is that all competitions? 9 goals in all competitions? I think so, yeah. I think so. We've got no number 9 in terms of squad numbers. Just in that. Yeah, 9 goals in all competitions. It's an okay return. I think double figures for that sort of player. I know he's not an out-and-out striker and he hasn't played every game. But Cunha has had some good moments. The winner against Arsenal, fantastic. A fantastic winner as well. You know, we talk about scoring goals that you know, not the average player is going to score in the case of the Umbumo goals, for example. Is there an Umbumo goal this season that you went, wow, that's... I know people might think about that Brighton one at home, but honestly, it's just through on goal, put your foot through it. And I don't think the goalkeeper's got much chance. Yeah. I'd even say Xerxes' goal at Palace was I'm not a fan of Xerxes. I do think he should be sold this summer as long as the decent offer comes in. But the Xerxes goal at Palace is not super easy. That's for sure. He's got 2 goals this season, Xerxes. Now, he's only started 5 games, but Xerxes got more yellow cards than goals this season. That tells you everything. He's come off the bench 17 times as well. To a good effect against Leeds in terms of his performance off the bench and the way he helped change the game there. But yeah. Yeah, so Cunha, who misses out, starting every game, even if the competition is Malacia, and I think I'd offer more competition for Luke Shaw than Malacia would. It does mean something. And yeah, therefore, my 5 players, as in our best 5 players this season, consistency, etc., are as follows. Lamens, Casemiro, Bruno, Maguire, and Luke ever-present Shaw, which is just wild, bearing in mind how his previous 11 years have been. Yeah, we would have been. We would have been. He just hasn't been quite as electric going forward, and that might well be one of the reasons why we bring in a left-back this summer. And I'd be very... Left-back is... Let's say we sell Ugarte. That means I want to see 3 midfielders come through the door. Left-back is possibly the next most important issue, although you could argue, I think a forward player actually would be our 4th priority. Number 4 would be a forward player, an electric one. And ideally one that could play as a number 9, but also could play maybe on the right of the attacking 3. There is someone at Barcelona. I am being a little bit mischievous with that. Right. All right. Listen. Don't worry. Ugarte. Ciao, my friend. Right. That's the end. Great to see you all today and catch up soon. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe and all that other stuff. We need to get to 100 subscribers. Come on. Come on. Let's get there. Click subscribe.